Welcome, everyone. I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium, a Taino arrow walk, and this is Late Night Circus, where I break down the energetic, astrological, spiritual meanings behind certain trending topics, viral issues or trends, worldwide news, current events, even politics. And today we are exclusively focusing on Project 2025 at your request. People wanted to know all different types of things about Project 2025, especially how they can cope with it, what it means on a larger scale, how is it compared to things like the Nazi regime. What does this mean essentially for our futures? What are we supposed to be learning from this? So we did take a bunch of early questions, and I'm going to be taking your questions through the comment section. If you are tuning in late, please give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment of any kind. It helps me out in the algorithm. And hit the join or subscribe button. I appreciate you guys. Donations are always appreciated as well. All right, so because I wanted to do this as a Q&A show, that's mostly what we're going to be focusing on here today. But I did want to break down some of the basics here. Okay, so, what is Project 2025? This is a right-wing policy blueprint and personal project backed by the Conservative Heritage Foundation, designed to reshape the federal government and its operations. These plans and policies were designed essentially for Trump in his second term, knowing that he already supported, most of this. So if you look at his Agenda 47, for example, you could see that he just already supports all of this. So when people are like, no, he doesn't. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. It comes right out of his mouth. Okay. So what we have here is the Heritage Foundation essentially designing this thing with doctors and lawyers and scientists and, all these people got together and created essentially a way to destroy what's left of our democracy, put a fascist dictator in place. That fascist dictator is Trump, who proudly comes on regularly saying, I will be a dictator, and talks about how he plans to do it, taking bits and pieces from his Agenda 47 and then Project 2025. And it's out there. We're so deep in it at this point. It's blatant. Okay. There is no more hiding it. And I just want to say this. I am constantly telling you guys how important it is to be informed. And when we watch our family and friends go dark and fall into the cult of Trumpism, for example, or refuse to leave their Republican right-wing politics, we see that they are embedded in that life. And they have truly lost, if they ever had it at all, any sense of discernment, morality, ethics. And the reason they were able to get such a toehold is because people who want, like us, for everyone on earth to have enough, to have basic rights, we have not been diligent enough in educating ourselves about the attacks that were coming in constantly against those systems that support the average human being of all walks of life. And because we have chosen to be ignorant, here's a good example. Okay. Most Trumpers were never into politics. They're uneducated. They are doing this, most of them, for the first time. They say things like, he tells it like it is. He's just a truth teller. That speaks to how uneducated they are. Now, on the other side, you have people like us who are shocked, amazed, disgusted, taking up arms to fight against something like Project 2025. But to be honest, Most of us have not been educated enough up until this time. We haven't been educated enough, therefore, we couldn't share the information. We weren't on top of the news. I know the news is negative, but you cannot bury your head in the sand. And I say it all the time, but it is a sign of great privilege and entitlement for you to just sit back, enjoy the ride, know nothing about the politics in your own country or the world, and say, meh, it's not really affecting me. That means you don't care about your neighbor who is affected by it every single day, lives in fear 24/7, and that you were foolish enough and uneducated enough to believe Project 2025 was never going to land on your doorstep. You should have been paying attention all along. So I hope the bigger lesson of today is not what do we do and how do we transmute this and how can we use alchemy to get beyond this and what's the astrology behind it. I hope the bigger lesson is that you need to be watching the news, you need to be informed, and when you see that something stinks, you need to speak out and inform others. We should never get back in this position again. We all have a responsibility, whether it directly affects you all the time or not, okay, to be good citizens. So let me get off my soapbox and we'll get back onto this. So essentially, within Project 2025, we see that there's over 140 Trump officials also. For those who are like, is it really his? Yeah, it's his. Yeah, 140, more than that, Trump officials. We're constructing it. And like I said, it overlaps with most of his policies anyways. Look at his Agenda 47 if you don't understand what I'm talking about. Some of the worst things that I've seen in this, and you guys, you know, when I said, okay, what are your questions? Everyone's requesting I do a late night circus on Project 2025. What kind of questions do you have? Most of the questions I got were just people saying, can you read it to us? It's 900 pages. I don't have that kind of time. Are you going to pay me for this? Are you kidding me? Why are you not getting educated? You know how many TikToks, how many YouTube vids, how many edited clips there are for this? But instead you said, can you read it? No, I'm not going to read it to you. However, I will point out a couple of the worst things that I've seen about this. Pages 470 to 490. We've got goal number 3, hitting the LGBTQ community incredibly hard. Also, women who choose to remain single, and with 4B going on and no sign of it stopping. And I've warned you guys in my 4B shows, the next thing they're going to do is hit us with taxes if we refuse to marry men. Here it is. Okay. So only a man and a woman can get married. That's how it's going to be. And it's going to be biblically based and also taught through the education system, which is going to be eliminated. The Department of Education is going to be eliminated. We'll get on to that. Okay, so biblically based, only a man and a woman. Repealing all LGBTQIA rights, but also trans rights. There will be on the birth certificate only a male or a female option, and that'll be backed in all institutions. The government will not allow for anything other than that. So trans rights will also go. There will be penalties for non-married people, and there will be additional perks for married couples. There already is. So when Trump talks about that, I don't know if he's just not educated on the fact that that's already there. Probably not. But anyways, there will be more for married people and less for unmarried. Okay, then that led into another disturbing Project 2025 that really got me and caught my attention that I had not heard about until recently. And that's on the Department of Education being fully eliminated and replaced with something. They're not really sure what, but higher institutions will also lose all of their funding and support. So, you know, colleges, and they'll be replaced by something called the American Academy. I'm sure we're the laughing stock. Can you imagine just like people trained up to be like Trumpers, right? Just meandering around the country and the world. Hilarious, right? But it isn't. It's just like a circus. It literally is just a bunch of clowns, okay, who don't know. Um, I'll keep it clean. But here's how that happens: math and reading rates, test scores, all of that rejected, wiped out. They want to increase homeschooling, which is some people do a great job with homeschooling. I'm not against homeschooling, okay, but they want to reinforce homeschooling. They want to stop tracking special needs. And so this is immediately once he gets into office, as they are in the process of eliminating the Department of Education entirely. They want to stop tracking special needs kids, meaning we know that there are certain minority groups, for example, who suffer more with special needs. They don't want any of that evidence. They don't want anything ethnic based. They don't want any data collected on income, nothing. In regards to special needs kids. They want to remove all non-binary support. So any improvements that had been made for the trans kids will all be wiped out immediately. Charter schools will be taking over. There will be no more free meals at all. Immigration, this one was very disturbing to look at. Immediately, there would be an elimination of DACA, T visas, and U visas, immediate deportation of denied applicants, suspending applications with big backlogs. Isn't that everything? Okay. Restricted work applications and a roundup. Trump wants a roundup of what I believe is, if I can find the number on this, 18 million immigrants, round them up into camps immediately, and we'll decide in time what will happen to them. Last time we did that, there were so many deaths of children, right? Think of what we looked at around COVID times. So camps immediately for immigrants. I also noticed that what they call DEI, okay, which is just equality. We've had, different strategies put in place for decades to minimize racial injustice, redlining, to allow for people of color to have access to some of the same opportunities as white people. And he wants to eliminate all of that, has renamed it diversity, equity, inclusion programs. All right. So we also have the worst of the worst, quite possibly. And this is against women and girls. So we already see, let's just use Texas as an example, okay? Texas will allow a little girl to be raped, and they will force her to carry the pregnancy term and give birth to the child. Because little girls can't give birth, they will do emergency C-sections on them, when it comes to that point. Other women who are pregnant in Texas, this is happening now. This has been happening, okay? I want to say 85,000 rapes so far since Roe v. Wade was overturned have ended up like this. Correct me if I'm wrong. If someone has the updated number on that, 85,000 may be too low. And when we see women in Texas, again, this is just Texas as an example. This is happening in a lot more, mostly down south, okay, but a lot more places. And it's getting worse every day. And Trump wants to make this a national ban. So even if you're a regular blue-blooded New Yorker, right, You've had your rights, you're educated, you feel like you're in kind of la la land in regards to all of that. You're about to lose birth control, you're about to lose abortion rights, you're about to lose even access to chemotherapy or any type of medical treatments if you are of childbearing age. And I'll get into that. But, we see that in Texas, for example, if a woman is pregnant and she starts to lose the baby, or the baby has some type of medical, malfunction, disease, what have you, and they know it's not a viable pregnancy, or that the child is going to have so many problems that it's highly recommended, they abort, she's not allowed to. So the woman will, and there are tons of stories like this. You can see them all over TikTok, all over the news. These women are going into the ER and saying, I'm literally miscarrying, and they send them back to their vehicles. And they say, well, don't go too far, because when you are to a point of sepsis and you are actually going into shock and you're dying physically, then we'll remove the fetus or the dead fetus. Okay, so typically too, with these women, they're then unable to have more children in the future. So it does such tremendous damage to their reproductive system. They can't recuperate from something like this. And quite frankly, who the hell would who could even think about something like that after that? I can't even imagine the mental and emotional damage. So, this is about control. Clearly, this is not just about bringing more babies into the world, though they do want their workforce. And that is, leading factor behind this. But this is about grinding women back down into dust and keeping them in a place of submission, getting us back into the 50s, back into the 40s. What was it? Was it 1978? We were allowed to get bank accounts, I believe. And a lot of people are just learning that. A lot of people I'll see posting and they're like, what? Are you crazy? You think women weren't allowed to have bank accounts? Yeah, until almost 1980, women were not allowed to have bank accounts without the power of a man helping them to do so. Okay. So this is not the far gone past. This was a minute ago. This is your mom. This is your grandma. Okay. I also am shocked to hear that, and this I did not know until recently, that on if you go to page 455, you'll see where they're trying to eliminate chemotherapy, other cancer treatments, and it looks like any kind of medical treatment to a woman of childbearing age, because sometimes those treatments will affect her ability to get pregnant or the pregnancy. Okay, so what is this saying? Well, the government wants to be in the doctor's office with you at all times. And if you are of childbearing age, you will have zero rights to your body. Okay. This is, well, I'll leave it at that. Okay. Then we have another one that was shocking, disturbing, was Schedule F. And this was already attempted by Trump in October of 2020, I believe it was. Yeah, October of 2020. Schedule F is removing voting rights from everybody. Okay. So civil servants who are typically appointed to those positions, this is what he tried to do in October of 2020. He tried to remove them and replace them with Trump loyalists. So there will be no more voting. And that's why the other day, I posted a video on this. That's why the other day when he said to my good Christians, his Christian audience, he was speaking to a group of Christian nationalists who've been trying to get this in place since the 30s. So to me, none of this is new. Okay. But it's shocking how far it's getting. And they've been breeding their children. When you see 19 kids and counting, when you see the gaggles of kids, right? They're like breeding to put them out into politics to support this stuff. Well, that's been going on since the 30s. Well, they're old now. They're in politics now. This is a lot of the government. So this isn't new. But what he tried to pull in October really showed how, this would be playing out. And when he was speaking the other day, again, to these Christian nationalists, he was saying, oh, my good Christians, all you have to do is vote this one last time. This is it. I will have it fixed for you, so you never have to vote again. That's Schedule F. This isn't even his first attempt at it. Okay, but he ran out of time in office to get it to go through. All right, I'll leave it at that. I'm going to start getting into your questions. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm just looking at, oh, thank you. Laura Baker says, my mom didn't have a banking account on her own until 1974. She couldn't even get a credit card without my dad on the card. That's right. No credit cards, no bank accounts, no ownership of property, da, 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 da. It goes on and on. And so, when you see like these sellout women who want to like back Project 2025 or back Trump, and they act like, this isn't a problem. They're all about the patriarchy. They're the little foot soldier sellouts for the patriarchy. Or you see the men who say, why do women deserve recognition for their accomplishments? I do all those things every day. They're playing dumb. Okay. Don't feed into these arguments. Don't think for a second you're educating these people. This information is old as dirt. Everyone knows this. They're deliberately trying to upset, right? And to take down the high vibrational energy of successful women and women's rights by, forcing us back, pregnant and barefoot, into the kitchen where we could never get access to a single penny. That's what they want to see. So it's disgusting. Also, I would say I knew, because when you guys started messaging me and you were like, why aren't you doing a late night circus on 2025, on Project 2025? I thought, because this sounds old to me. This did not look like new information. And a lot of minorities and LGBTQ, friends of mine, and like, we all said the same thing. This has been happening. This isn't new, but when I announced that I was going to do it, here's how I know there is a chord being struck. This is rubbing people the wrong way talking about this, because the minute I posted anything on Project 2025, I had those sellout women attacking me, and I had men stalking me. And a couple of people were like, maybe it's just bots. It's not bots. Bots aren't jumping from platform to platform and messaging me. And, no, they're obsessed. And I turned off the comment sections. So anything I posted on Project 2025, my God, the kickback. And my following account, I was watching dozens and dozens and dozens of followers. Okay. So this is essentially a dictatorship, a fascist regime being led by evil people, period, point blank. Some of them uneducated, but I think for the most part, they're very aware of what they're doing. And it's like throwing holy water at Satan when you bring this topic up. Okay. So amazing reactions that I've had. Let's move on to another question. Let's put up the early questions. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll start with this one. Okay. But then we're going to get to the early questions. So anyone who sent in early questions, yes, I am going to get to you. And I know you've been patient and waiting. Thank you. All right. So, but no, go back, Kat. I am going to answer that one since you already popped it up. Okay. So Yolanda Fisher said, do you think that the Heritage Foundation leader, Kevin Roberts, stepping down is a red herring? I believe that every single thing they're doing with this is simply to get those votes for Trump. That's it. He already had his own agenda with all of this. He's been speaking on this for years. We see what members of, his cabinet have been doing. We see that there were, what did I say? Over 400, no, 100 and how many? Over 140 of them designed this, okay, with the Heritage Foundation. These are all Trump people. And what they're going to do now is realize that with Biden stepping down, with Kamala kicking his ass, with them looking like a bunch of freaks, because they're a bunch of circus freaks, right? With them looking freakier and freakier, whether it's loving a sofa or, the weird eyeliner or picking on women for their success. I mean, it's just getting weirder and weirder. They have to start doing something to distance themselves from this. And I don't really think that occurred to them, earlier. I think they were like, no, this is encouraging the base to vote. And it will with some diehards, okay? But the more people get educated on this and understand that this has been in place for a long time, they're actively and quickly, aggressively pursuing it. It's not just this election that we need to be watching for, okay? It's the future, in my opinion, of the Republican Party in general, because it's off the rails. So just another move. Okay, very typical, nothing unexpected. Let's move on to some of the early questions we had coming in here. So Karen Sperdowis on Facebook said, would just love to hear how women can overcome this proposition. Women are going to, the way I see it, as a possibility as of right now, because we have free will and we can screw this up with our free will. And again, a lot of sellout foot soldiers for the patriarchy are a lot of these women. Okay. But forget them, let them fall. No, there's no point in talking to them. There's no one home. They're zombies. Okay. The rest of us, we're going to pull up our bootstraps and we're going to dedicate the rest of our lives to being more educated on these types of issues than what we were. We are going to need to cut off people that we have been supporting who support the fascist regime against women. We need to decenter men as a whole, because a lot of your sons and your husbands and your lovers, they are going in the voting booth to massacre you. So you need to drop them like a ton of bricks. We need to become a stronger community together as women, and we need to support our girls. We need to have confidence that we're capable of doing that we have caught it in time, and that we're going to be diligent going forward. But it should be disturbing. And should all of this happen, look at the stories of the women it is happening to. Look in Alabama, look in Louisiana, look in Texas, look around. It's already here. Covering now, and a lot of them are dead. All right, so that's not our ability to overcome. This is already here, and we are catching it in time. Now, I believe Pluto in Aquarius was it January 20th of 2024, I believe it was, the shift from the old Capricorn ways, which was the patriarchy, it's dads, it's grandfathers, right? It's the hammer of judgment. All that's dead and over with. We moved into Aquarius. It's going to be led, and I've been saying this for years, it's going to be led by women, LGBTQ, people of color, indigenous. That's what's happening. But before we fully take over and establish the matriarchy, there will be a battle by the patriarchy to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's what you're looking at right now. So get your swords, sharpen them up, and keep them at your side. Let's move on to another one from Cindy Harrigal. Can I get a comparison of Project 2025 to Agenda 47 and the Nazi political platform? Okay, so you guys, look, I do the best I can, all right? But like, seriously, we have to just all, really do our own research as far as astrological, spiritual, energetic. There is no difference. There is no difference. So I can quickly and easily answer that question. Trump's agenda 47, Project 2025, which is also, really his, and then the Nazi platform, it is a playbook for fascists, for dictators. And when you see him, every time he can get his little orange hands on that mic, he's immediately, I'm gonna be a dictator, I'm gonna be a dictator, right? So there's no debate on how he would overcome that, because he's not reinventing the wheel. He's not that smart. So he's not pioneering anything. He's just reusing an old playbook, and the easiest one to use is the Nazi playbook. All right. So what do we see in that? So I did break down that for you guys in case you want more detail, and just Cindy to answer more in depth, because I'm not sure if you're asking about this like astrologically. What we do see astrologically too, with, for example, right now we're going through a lot of Mars transits. Well, that's war. We're going through a lot of transits with women's empowerment. I've talked about that in a lot of other shows. So women, the patriarchy taking over. Women have been doing the hard work. We see men also going through transitions where they're basically falling out because they're refusing to do the work. Okay. But some of them will remain, some of them will step up. And then we see with like Pluto and Aquarius, for example, the French Revolution, right? The American Revolution. That was the last time we were going through this transit. So I don't necessarily see a regime like this being put into place. Okay. I see us going in a right direction. But let's talk about Trump's Agenda 47, Project 2025, and the Nazi platform. What are the 5 things needed in order to accomplish something like this? And you could see how Trump did this last time he was in office. Threats of violence. That's his big thing. That's what he runs on. Okay, threats of violence. Number 2, he wants to consolidate power. So basically, every branch of the government is no longer its own branch. It's just run by his foot soldiers, and it implements his plans. Now, again, let's go back to Schedule F. Okay, that would be the way to really get that into place officially, is to not allow anyone to vote anymore, because all of the civil servants are going, and that's what he tried to pull in October of 2020. All the civil servants will be replaced with Trump loyalists. It failed, obviously, but with him having more time on his hands, that's something he's been focusing on for years. And look at what he has done with the judges. Look at what a mess this is. The Supreme Court. Okay. Number 3, you need to establish a police state. Now, I saw him talking at the Black journalists at some, I can't even believe he showed up to that, asking them for their support, trying to rally up the Black community to vote for him 2 nights ago, or last night maybe. And he talked about giving police immunity. Sandra Macy was just shot point blank in her kitchen in her nightgown after calling the police because she thought a prowler was on her property in the middle of the night. 35-year-old girl just murdered like that. When we look at Floyd, when we look at all the disgusting things that the police do, and to think that there's no room for reform there, it needs to be wiped out, entirely eliminated, and reconstructed. And he wants to make sure they have full immunity. These are his words. They need to have full immunity to do their jobs. Now, that is also connected to the immigration stuff he wants to do, where he rounds up, right? Like, whatever, 20 million people, and the police are allowed to do whatever they want, during that time. So there are bigger agendas underneath this. But that's what he wants. Okay, so giving the cops full immunity allows the establishment of a police state. The The immigration raids, the cops would be behind that. He also wants to send troops into blue cities, even though crime is down. So crime is considerably down. But he's making up all these lies. And I heard him say that like 2 nights ago. I don't remember who he was talking to at that point, but he was saying, crime is up, crime is up. We're going to put an end to it. It's not, crime isn't up. It isn't. So he's justifying an invasion of the blue states. So he wants to have the right to send troops in. Now, he was complaining about this a lot in his last term, where he was like, a governor or a mayor should just be able, I'm the president, I should just be able to send in troops if I want to, So he wants to make sure that his people, Trump loyalists, become the governors and the mayors, and then they will say, yes, it's okay for you to come, and invade here. And then you have number 4, the Insurrection Act to crush protesters. So we saw this when he took his Bible upside down and was like out in front, and he had, he was outside the White House. This was back in 2020. Right. And he had the troops come in and crush the protesters just because he felt like it. Okay. Domestic terrorists like the Proud Boys, for example, are going to be empowered. There will be, immunity for them. He talks about this. He talks about, making sure they're going to be pardoned from things like January 6th insurrection, okay, which occurred. For those of you outside the states, if you're watching this, America's a shit show, basically. Okay, so look that up. But he wants to pardon them if he gets back, all the criminals that are in jail for the insurrection on our Capitol, right, on January 6th, trying to stop Biden from coming into power so that he could be that dictator. Okay. So supporting homegrown terrorists and things like this, all of this is part of the Insurrection Act, step 4 in something like a Nazi platform. And all opponents to him will be arrested. Well, this is what he campaigns on. I mean, all the time, every other word out of his mouth, he doesn't have any actual decent policies he's working toward or can talk about. So it's all like so-and-so belongs in jail, so-and-so needs to be investigated, all of his opponents, lock him up. And that's how you instill fear in people so they won't stand up against you. And we see that's all Republicans have become. It's so sad. So he also, you have to create, in the way that they did with the Nazis did with the Jews, they had to make them look like they were subhuman. And so Trump's rhetoric, which I'm not going to go over, I'm not even going to give the time of day to it, but he does refer to us, whether you're, a left or, maybe you're a progressive, whatever, you're a Democrat, right? He calls us over and over and over and over again radical left thugs that are vermin to our country, repeatedly. I have heard this so many times, okay, in recent years from him. He can't stop himself. And so it's like, he knows that advertising works and how advertising works, and that if you say something repeatedly, you're going to numb out the cult followers to seeing that group as human beings at all. And that allows them to be rounded up into camps and murdered and whatnot and lose all their rights. Okay. So he's been doing this. This isn't new. But number 5, and this is the last of it to answer Cindy's question. Again, her question is, how is Agenda 47 Project 2025 in the Nazi platform any different? It isn't, but this is what you need to do to put it into place. And these are all the things he's been doing, plans to do, is proud of doing. Number 5, he wants to undermine free press. I have a degree in journalism. I am all about the free press. This is the downfall of our country. And when we take journalists and we make them the enemy because we know that the truth is going to ruin our agenda. We create a group of sheep who can be brainwashed into believing absolutely anything. And that's exactly what we're looking at. Okay, with the Trumpers. So he refers to journalists as being the enemy of the people. Always has. All right. So there's really not a whole heck of a lot to this. And we're well underway with these attempts. So again, it's not new, but that is a great question. Cindy, thank you for asking that. I know we have some more. So we want to get on to Gail Struble on Facebook. Are we going to have all the rights we fought for the last 50 years? Can this country come together as one United States? Divided we fall. No, we're never going to come together because we were never together. And if you're a person of color, if you're gay, if you're trans, if you're broke, if you're, I mean, this country has been divided. It's not, but we don't have to be. We don't all have to agree on the same thing. And someone can hate me for being Latino, okay? But they better not come to my face and make it a problem on the streets, right? Somebody can hate your son for being a gay man, but they should not have any power to restrict him from getting married to another man. We can agree to disagree. We don't have to become one. And there are too many stupid people on the planet, not just in this country, but on the planet. They're too dumb. When we study people like Trumpers, they have a very, very low IQ. Okay. There's a lot of lagging in education. Now, we were also saying, well, these are mostly baby boomers, but actually the majority of the Trump base at this point are white Gen X males. Okay. So, do you ever look at them and say, oh, they want what's best for me? Right. No, they don't. And that's been clear. They want the patriarchy in place, and we don't really have to care. I don't think it's a good approach to care whether or not we can all come together or not. I don't give an ish if we all come together. What I want are laws in place protecting people of all walks, all races, all genders. That's what we need to see. And so energy would be better spent there, because as they continue to get the upper hand, we will lose all rights. 50 years more than that, go back for it will all be gone. If you are not a white Christian male, you're screwed, period, point blank. So do I believe it's going to happen? And again, with late night circus shows, I'm always saying to you guys, this isn't a prediction show. I'm not doing psychic mediumship readings. I'm not giving predictions. But do I believe that's going to happen? I think it will happen if we don't keep up the work. And I have been warning you guys since I got a platform a decade ago. We have to keep up the work, okay? Right now, we're doing pretty good. I think we'll be all right. I don't think you should go back to resting, after we get on a better track here with Kamala and whatnot. I don't think we can take a nap on it, like we have been. So let's stay focused, as though this is always a threat. And it has always been, will always be. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to another one. This is from Cheryl Mason on Facebook. If they intend to revoke the Constitution, won't that deprive us of every constitutional right, including the right to ever vote again? Correct. Schedule F. Please review our constitutional rights that will be lost if they succeed in revoking the Constitution, for those who are not aware of what it would be to cost us. Okay, somebody's got to pay me for all that, okay? I mean, I could just basically tell you that it's essentially everything. Again, if you are not a white Christian male, this will not be the place for you. Okay. Back in 2015, 2016, I started getting a lot of questions on my shows about like, what do we do in this country as a woman? If we're going to lose birth control, if we're going to lose abortion rights, if we're going to lose any rights to our own bodies, our autonomy, like what do we do? I've been telling you this for years. Leave the country, get out, get a second citizenship. And everyone thought I was joking. I'm so serious about this. Have a backup plan so you could sleep at night. When he was elected the first time, the world opened up its doors to us. They felt so bad. They were like, okay, you had a grandmother here, you had a grandfather here, you can come home, you can come back into our country. And a lot of people have left. A lot of people even maybe keep their citizenship here, but I'm working on it. I'm out of here regardless of what happens with this election. There is no way in a million years I would be able to sleep. And I've been working on it for years. You've got to have a backup plan, just in case, because no, there will be no constitutional rights across the board. Unless, again, you fit into that category, white Christian male. Okay. Let's move on to another one. This is from a BF Brenner. What can we do as healers to transmute its energy? Well, I think we need to stop thinking of healing and light work and spiritual work as being something that we do in other dimensions. We need to remember that we are here, yes, as spiritual creatures having a human experience on planet Earth to do the work in the here and now. So all of those supposed light workers who put on their blinders and they say, I'm just going to be Switzerland and I'm not going to pick a side, you're not a genuine light worker. And you're not even a healer for your own self. Because you should know, be educated on, care about, and fight for what's right in the world around you right now. Right now. We are here for right now. And so what we can do to alchemize and to transmute all of this is to fight, to not be afraid to fight, and to spread the truth, to speak on what's actually happening. And this is where our downfall has been. So there's no amount of meditation. There's no amount of psychic readings. There's no amount of tarot card flipping, Reiki sessions, right? Floating you can do. There's no amount that you can do. You have to live in the here and now and be an actual transmuter of this energy in tangible, logical, sophisticated human ways. And we have to stop with the escapism and the avoidance. We have to stop. Okay, look at what it creates. Look at the Trump base. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Look at what that creates. It creates a cult. And we really have been living in a lot of toxic positivity. And again, I want to revisit what I said earlier in the show about entitlement and privilege. Okay, people who say, well, I don't pay attention to politics. Well, I don't pay attention to the news. Well, I don't know what's going on. You're probably white. And you're probably middle class or upper class, and that has been a privilege for you. When I hear someone who says, I know nothing about politics, I know nothing about the news, I know nothing about anything. So, well, it must be nice to be you. How nice for you. So we also need to step down from that level of ignorance and say, I am dedicated. I'm dedicated to doing what's right for all of us as a community. And that's how we transmute this. Okay. Let's move on to another question. This is from a Kaiman E's mom. He definitely has Tourette's of lies. Tourette of lies. It is like a tic because he's essentially like a 4-year-old. If you've ever had, I remember my aunt was a very, very wise woman. And I remember her saying about kids in the family, if kids are not trained by the age of 6, they're doomed. And you can see them at like 4 and 5 having the last outbursts of acting like a child, right? And refusing to learn self-control and to choose what's right. You can see the last of it right there. But by 6, 7 years old, if they can't get it right, and I'm not talking about kids with disabilities, of course, or other abled, but just, the average approach, it really is. And I have always found that to be true. And what he reminds me of is like a 4 or 5-year-old having a temper tantrum. And when he's baited, he literally cannot control himself. So when you say it looks like Tourette's, like a tic, it is, because that's all you have to do is push a button, and he hasn't evolved beyond that mentally. So his capabilities are not beyond that. It'd be fun to watch him have the button to dropping bombs or starting World War III. Imagine how well that's going to go, right? Lucky we made it out the first time. They have to take away the truth and anybody speaking against it in order to make control of a fascist world. So yes, that is, what did I say? That's step 4 in the Nazi regime, I think. The Insurrection Act. Yeah, you crush the protesters and then, yeah, you pardon the criminals. Yep, 100%. You make enemies of. Bye, TikTok. They're about to shut me down. Get over here. YouTube at Ask Ivy. I'm surprised they let me talk this long. That's exactly how you create it. Yep. Any other questions or comments? They've been working on this project 2025 for the last 30 years because whites were scared of becoming the minority. My grandmother warned me about it way back and I never thought it would come. Yeah. So, I mean, Kaimani's mom, I mean, I don't know, if you're black, you're Hispanic, what, but yes, I'm assuming you're black. We all knew this. This is not, news. I mean, I wasn't even going to do a show on this. We know, we're aware. We've been saying, your grandmother said, my grandmother said, right? We are aware, but no one cared because it wasn't their problem. You're exactly right. It's been a goal, and it has been, I think, more than 30 years. But yeah, ballpark, that's when it got really bad. About 30 years ago, when white people realized this was something they needed to do in order to avoid becoming the minority. And again, it infiltrated mostly through Christianity, Mormonism, the evangelicals, and now it's Christian nationalists. And so when you watch things again, like 19 Kids and Counting, an example I used earlier tonight, when you watch, like, why are they having 19 kids? Why are they having 20 kids? Why are they doing that? Right. Because they are pumping out as many of God's soldiers, as they call them, in order to get them into office. And they're all in politics. Look at that. You think they're just out there like farming or like, I don't know. I'm just saying this to everybody. I'm not saying this to anyone in particular, but it's like you think they're just out there living their lives and you're like, oh, we should respect that. Christians are good. Christians have murdered and killed and are historic for the damage done to the world internationally. Okay. It's monstrous. It's horrific. And it's back again in full force. This is what happens when we take a nap on it. Okay. So that's how they infiltrate. One of the ways, probably the most effective way. Trump's good Christians, right? What did he say the other night? Vote for me one last time so you never have to vote again. I'll fix it for you. Oh, he'll fix it for all of us. He sure will. If the Republicans win, we lose all of our, okay, yeah, why don't they get that? They do get that. They want that. They want that. They do get it. And again, I'm just going to remind everyone, don't try to educate, don't try to educate. Put out videos. Share memes, share posts, educate, hold maybe platforms where you speak about things where people can come if they want to get educated, but don't go out of your way to waste your energy trying to actually educate Republicans, Trumpers, whatever, right? It's not that they don't get it. They 100% get it and they want it. They hate you. Okay, that's it. That's all there is. So wake up. Set those boundaries and fight the good fight. Anything else coming in here? We are at time. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for suggesting this. I'm actually really happy that I went ahead and did it. I think that it was a good time for all of us to get together and be with the like-minded and enjoy each other's company. But I know that we're doing a lot of that right now because Kamala's a queen and she's kicking royal ass, and I believe she will continue to do so. I figured it would be her, Michelle Obama. I'm very pleased with the way things are going, but this is no time for you to let up. This is no time for you to relax. And we got to get those votes in. Okay. We have to get her in place, in order. And for the rest of your life, I hope this was a big wake up call for those of you who, again, I don't like the news. I don't like politics. I'm totally uneducated. I'm privileged. I'm white. I'm rich. I'm whatever. I hope that dies with Project 2025. Okay. So do more, do better. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Love you. Congratulations, Kat. I think she did a great job. Our brand new producer. Jill, thank you for shadowing her. And I will see you guys. If you didn't already, give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment of any kind, subscribe. Donations are appreciated. I will see you guys Wednesday for Get a Grip on Your Intuition. Are you a psychic, a medium, or an empath? See you then. Thanks.